Welcome back. This is an Aleks homework video on counting protons and electrons in atoms and atomic ions. So first of all, an ion is charged. An ion is either positively charged or negatively charged. And I cannot lose my protons because if I lose my protons, I've lost my element. So an element is always going to have the same number of protons, and an ion will have the same as a neutral element. What will differ is the number of electrons. Electrons can be transferred over, stolen from each other. So I can either get them stolen from me and I've lost my electrons and I become more positive, or I gain electrons by stealing them and then I become more negative. So if you've lost electrons, you're now no longer neutral because you have more positives than negatives because you lost some of your negatives. You're more positive. If you're more positive by 1, then you're positive 1. If you're more positive by 2, you're positive 2. And a positive ion is called a cation. Okay, so that's what this is. Neutral atom would have same number of protons and electrons. A cation is going to have more protons, less electrons. It's because you've given some away. An anion is the negative ion. And it's where you're going to have more electrons because you've stolen some. And so you have whatever number of protons you originally had, plus you have all those electrons that you usually had, plus you have more electrons. So you're going to be negatively charged. So a cation is going to be positively charged. I see that as the T in cation reminds me of the positive sign. And then anion, the N, reminds me of a negative sign. Okay. If it's the same, then it's neutral. If you have the same number of protons and electrons, it's neutral. If you have a cation, you're going to have more protons, less electrons. And if it's a cation 2 positive, you're going to have 2 more. If it's 3 positive, you have 3 more. The other way around, if you have more electrons, you're going to be 1 negative or 2 negative or 3 negative, depending on how many you have. So let's start with what you're given. First thing here I see is strontium. And strontium is on the periodic table number 38. So it's going to have 38 protons because it's strontium. Okay. But I see that it's 2 plus. It's positively charged. And a positively charged ion is no longer neutral. It's now a cation. So this is a cation because of the positive charge. If it's positive charge, it means it has 2 more protons, 2 less electrons. Well, my protons can't change because strontium is always going to have that number of protons. So I have to have 2 less than 38. And so since that's 2 positive, you're going to have 2 more protons. You'll have 36 electrons. Okay. So this first one then is 38 and 36 cation. Strontium cation. Okay. Now I'm not given this, I have to kind of imply it. And remember, you can't do this without a periodic table. You have to have it. You don't know it, you won't be able to do it at all. I look and see that there's 8 protons, so I simply go to the periodic table and see that an 8 protons is oxygen. Okay. So my first thing I'm going to write here is O because that's oxygen. I don't know if I'm going to need a positive or negative yet, but I know it's oxygen. But I look here and see that I've got the same number of protons and electrons. That means that their positives and negatives are balanced. That means it's neutral. There is no charge here. It's no positive charge or negative charge. So this is a neutral atom. It's just the letter O, oxygen, and it's going to be 8 protons and 8 electrons. Okay, I'm going to have to do the same thing for here. My element based upon protons. So when I look at protons, 35 on the periodic table is bromine. Okay, so bromine is Br. Okay, I may have to change it. Maybe an ion, I don't know, but it's Br something. I look here and I hope that they're together, but they're not. I have 35 protons, but 36 electrons. That means I have more negatives than I do positives. And it looks like I have 1 more. I have 1 more negative than I have positive. So I'm going to have a negative in the superscript. So it's Br negative 1. Okay, that's the symbol of it. It's a symbol of an ion, and it's a negative ion, so that's called an anion. Okay. I think you can think through this if you just pay attention, be careful, but there's lots of mistakes you could make here. You could get this wrong in 50 different ways probably, but I hope this helps.